Imagine a world on the brink, where whispers of an ancient evil echo through the lands, and a master deceiver sets his sights on a once untouched realm of beauty and wisdom. This is the story of Sauron's return in the Second Age, an age where the Dark Lord almost brought Middle-earth to its knees. But it's not just brute force that defines Sauron's rise. It's his cunning, his patience, and the web of lies he spun across Middle-earth. Prepare to dive into a time of great alliances, devastating betrayals, and the legendary conflict that set the stage for the Lord of the Rings. Before we get started, if you're as fascinated by the lore of Middle-earth as I am, give this video a thumbs up to show your love for the world of Tolkien. Sauron's guise as Annatar, the deception of the Elves. After Morgoth's defeat at the end of the First Age, Sauron, one of his most loyal servants, found himself in a unique position. Though vanquished, he hadn't been destroyed. He chose cunning over open war, taking on the guise of Annatar, or Lord of Gifts, to win the trust of the Elves of Eregion. His goal was clear: to harness the might of the Elves for his own designs. Under this guise, Sauron played the long game. He approached Celebrimbor, the master smith and grandson of Fëanor, and presented himself as a wise and benevolent guide. Through his feigned generosity and charm, he persuaded the elves to forge the Rings of Power, all while hiding his true intent: to enslave Middle-earth under his dominion. Sauron's deception worked because he tapped into the deepest desires of the elves. Knowing their longing for preservation and beauty, he convinced them that the rings would secure these ideals. As they poured their skill and hope into crafting the rings, Sauron secretly forged the One Ring, binding his essence to it. The moment he placed it on his finger, the elves felt his dark presence and realized his betrayal. They tried to hide their own rings, but the damage was done, setting the stage for centuries of conflict. Was Sauron's manipulation inevitable, or could the elves have resisted his schemes with greater vigilance? Let us know what you think in the comments below. The corruption of Numenor. The kingdom of Númenor was Middle-earth's shining jewel, a land of towering strength, wisdom, and beauty, gifted to men by the valor as a reward for their aid against Morgoth. But Sauron had no intention of letting it remain a bastion of hope. After his plans in Eregion failed, he turned his sights on Numenor. Captured in a show of Númenorian power, Sauron was brought to the island as a prisoner, but it was not long before he turned the tables. Using his manipulative powers, Sauron quickly gained influence over King Ar-Pharazôn, feeding him fears and ambitions. He whispered promises of eternal life, luring the king and his people to worship Morgoth and abandon their allegiance to the Valar. Under Sauron's sway, the Númenorians built towering temples, sacrificed to dark gods, and embraced practices they had once considered vile. Their hearts grew heavy with greed and mistrust, and Sauron's hold over them only tightened. The tale of Númenor is a tragedy. Once a land of wisdom, it became corrupted by pride and fear, and ultimately, it was Sauron's influence that led to their fateful decision: the invasion of Valinor. When they set foot on those forbidden shores, the wrath of the Valar was unleashed, and Númenor was swallowed by the sea, ending its legacy in ruin. Though Sauron's physical form was destroyed in the cataclysm, his spirit endured, slipping back to Middle-earth, more determined than ever to conquer and corrupt. Founding of Mordor and rise as the Dark Lord. Returning to Middle-earth after Númenor's fall, Sauron regrouped, setting his sights on a new stronghold. In the shadowed lands of Mordor, he built Barad-dûr, the Dark Tower, fortifying it with the foulest magics and gathering legions of orcs, trolls, and dark creatures to his command. Here, he would reign as the Dark Lord, brandishing the One Ring as the ultimate symbol of his power and dominion. The founding of Mordor marked a turning point, as Sauron openly declared himself the ruler of all he surveyed. His armies terrorized the lands, raiding villages, pillaging resources, and leaving a trail of ruin in their wake. His influence spread not only among orcs and trolls, but also among men, especially those who sought power and wealth. Many saw Sauron as an unstoppable force, a dark ruler who promised them protection, riches, and even dominion over others in exchange for loyalty. Barad-dûr, his towering fortress, became an ominous symbol of fear and control, its dark shadow stretching across Middle-earth. With every conquest, Sauron's ambitions grew more sinister. He was no longer content with simply ruling Mordor. He sought to dominate all the lands of Middle-earth, bending every race to his will and enslaving them under his single malevolent rule. His relentless expansion and the shadow of his influence marked him as a threat unlike any before, one that united the free peoples of Middle-earth in a desperate struggle to resist his overwhelming power. The War of the Last Alliance. In response to Sauron's unchecked rise, an unprecedented alliance was forged. Elves and men, led by Elendil, Isildur, and Gil-galad, combined forces to challenge the Dark Lord. Their aim was simple but monumental: to destroy Sauron and free Middle-earth from his shadow. The War of the Last Alliance was brutal and costly. On the fields of Dagorlad, the armies clashed with an intensity unmatched, and the battle raged for days. Elves and men fought side by side, their banners united against a common enemy. Sauron himself entered the fray, wielding immense power through the One Ring and laying waste to countless warriors with his devastating blows. In the final moments, Gil-galad and Elendil gave their lives to wound Sauron. It was then that Isildur, in a moment of courage and desperation, took up his father's broken sword and severed the One Ring from Sauron's hand, ending the Dark Lord's reign for a time. Yet, the victory was bittersweet. Isildur, believing he could harness the ring's power, chose to keep it instead of destroying it. His decision proved fateful. By sparing the ring, Isildur unknowingly preserved Sauron's spirit and left the door open for his eventual return. This single choice set Middle-earth on a long and dark path as the ring's influence crept into the hearts of men, sowing discord and treachery for generations. The seeds of future conflict were planted, and the looming threat of Sauron's return would haunt Middle-earth, sparking battles, betrayals, and a final struggle for freedom in the ages to come. The legacy of Sauron's ambition. Sauron's influence did more than just haunt Middle-earth. It seeped into its very fabric, shaping destinies long after his physical defeat. Even in the shadows, his dark ambitions lingered, driving kingdoms to conflict, instilling fear, and casting doubt across the land. His manipulation of the rings of power left an indelible mark on every bearer, entwining their fates with his will and corrupting those who craved dominance. Those who wore the rings felt the pull of his influence, as their lives and minds became entangled in his far-reaching schemes. The shadows of Sauron's rule extended well beyond Mordor, influencing alliances, sowing division among leaders, and corrupting the hearts of men who sought power and wealth. His memory echoed in the ambitions of rulers and the aspirations of conquerors, with his tactics serving as dark inspiration for those who would follow him. Sauron's legacy serves as a reminder of the seduction of power and the resilience required to resist it, proving that even the most insidious forces can be overcome by courage, wisdom, and the strength of those who dare to stand against darkness, even at great personal cost. Sauron's return in the Second Age was not just a tale of dark magic and conquest. It was a lesson in how manipulation and ambition can shape entire ages. From his deception of the Elves to the ruin of Númenor and his dark empire in Mordor, Sauron's actions changed Middle-earth forever. His legacy endures as one of the most profound stories of corruption and redemption in fantasy history. If you enjoyed this journey into Middle-earth's Second Age, make sure to subscribe for more epic lore breakdowns. And let us know in the comments, What other tales from Tolkien's universe would you like us to cover next? Until next time, keep the fire of Middle-earth alive.